car with the Munich Motorsport team at the moment, the all-Inkle team. They've got 2 cars. They're just trying to sort the financials out with the second drivers, and hopefully that will be yet another car on the grid in the meetings to come.
Another Chevy on screen. Felipe heading down into turn 1. The Frenchman driving for Campos. Adrian Campos' team, based in Spain, and competing in the single-seater arena as well in F3 and GP2. Nice to see them involved in World Touring Cars. Here's the 6'9" framed Dusan Borkovic, really struggling here this weekend with the balance of being able to fit in the car, if that makes sense. He can't quite get his frame into that car, and he says he can't do more than 4 laps without his left leg going numb. Jose Maria Lopez doesn't have that problem. The small-framed Argentinian back on home soil and going very quickly indeed. He was the pace setter in free practice 1, and 8 minutes into free practice 2, he's now pushing hard. His teammate Ivan Muller is currently fastest. Then it is Thiago Montero, who was quick this morning in the Honda Racing Team Civic. Sebastian Loeb's Mehdi Banani is third. Then it is Hugo Valent in the second Campos racing car. I've just seen his teammate Felipe. Then the second Honda Civic of Gabriele Tarquini. We saw him pushing hard, trying to keep on to the coattails of Ivan Muller earlier on. He's 5th. And then it is Quing Guimar rounding out the top 6. And better pace there from the Chinese driver. Lopez slots into 3rd place.
They're getting down to sort of race times now. Muller down there with a 46.9. That we compare that to a 45.9 of Lopez's race lap record. So they're only a second off because they're going to be on used tyres, the same going to be in the races. So we're about where it's going to be, but it's only going to get warmer. It is only going to get warmer, and they are going to be looking for more time in qualifying.
The Roll Motorsport car of Tom Chilton, first time we've seen that in free practice 2. Capsicum is his sponsor on the side. Capsicum with a real heritage starting to build behind that name in the world of motorsport. They own Carlin, and they backed Tom since his start. Carlin Motorsport, obviously a powerhouse in the single-seater.
I hear Max, his brother Max, has now got a drive with Nissan in Le Mans program, which is
the front-wheel drive LMP1 car.
Who is building that car? Is that RML or anything to do with that?
I'm not entirely sure. It's been done in the States, though. Interestingly enough, they've done all of their pre-season testing and development in and around the United States of America, and then they're going to come back to Europe very soon. But nice to see Max in a proper environment where you can earn money, where there is stability. And I know that is, well, that's a controversial thing to say, but I really do think that GT racing is in a rich bit of health compared to Formula 1.
We shouldn't single Max out to that just on his own, because it's all the drivers at the second half of the Formula 1 grid. They're all in a rough position because the sport is in a bit of a quandary at the moment, isn't it? You can either earn loads out of it, or you need bagfuls of funding to try and even be there. And it's a difficult position. It puts the drivers in a difficult position when there's, as you say, there's other areas like Le Mans programs, like the GT programs, like some of these touring car programs where you got good professional drivers can earn a solid living.
Yeah, absolutely right, Matt. The middle class, if that makes sense, the midfield of Formula 1's kind of disappeared, and that's made life very, very challenging. Interesting enough, Rob Huff, somebody that started his career off in single-seaters, did Vauxhall Junior back in the day, and then very quickly saw the advantage of being involved in an environment. We talked about GTs, touring cars, another environment that is heavily laden with manufacturers, and Rob took that choice very, very early. Didn't have the huge amounts that some of the other drivers had in and around him in single-seaters, and had bags of talent, made that count in the Clio Cup. I think he suspension.
I thought it was because he ate too much and they couldn't get him in the single seaters anymore.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I think Rob's not quite as slender as he was, shall we say, back in the day when I knew him in Vauxhall Juniors. He was a young nipper, wasn't he? So we were talking about that earlier on the way to lunch, Matt, weren't we? 35 years of age, apparently, Matt says, is the threshold for.
Well, Huffy's 34, isn't he?
Oh no, so
he's on the cusp.
Yes.
He's 34 years old, but he's still got more starts than any other driver on the grid here in World Touring Cars.
And that just shows if you do make the jump early, like I said, he came across early and bags full of talent, and it was nice to see him get rewarded well at Chevrolet, because I think he's almost had to fight into those ranks. He wasn't a household name, was he? He was always in and around those household names, but it takes a while to break that stigma down, and for Rob Huff to come of age and to grow into being a driver that fans and other drivers not necessarily fear, but certainly is somebody that would fit into any environment.
Well, to be fair to Rob, any car that they put him into, he's delivered results for him. You know, in bagfulls coming back, whether it be the Citroen. You know, he had a bit of a quiet year when he went to in the all-in Corsia. But you threw him in that Lada, and wow, it's transformed the whole thing going forward, the whole program for him.
Well, you were just saying in pre-practice one how the chemistry between himself and James, he's had to really up his game as James Thompson, because James is a hugely accomplished driver, but Rob just seems to have brought the bar up, and there's a lot of grass in the grill of that Lada. Has he been mowing some of it somewhere?
Yeah, that's not going to be doing much good to the engine temperature, is it?
I think he's mowed the lawn somewhere around this Termas de Rio Hondo circuit. 4.838 kilometers.
That rolls off your tongue very easily, doesn't it?
It's
that name.
That's, yeah.
You missed the Autodromo off the front though as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be here all day, wouldn't we, if I had that in front of what I had to say. Gabrielli doing what he does best and really wringing the neck of that Honda Civic. He's great to watch, isn't he? 53 years of age, and he's not lost any of it.
Yeah, Gabrielli down in 7th at the moment. We've got Huffy, whether Huffy's looking for a bit of... Oh no, he's entering the rear going, he might be there, looking for a bit of clear track for a fresh run. We've got Huffy, whether Huffy's looking for a bit of...
fairly long radius corners. You're asking the car to do quite a lot in terms of... So some of these corners are fairly long radius corners, and you're asking the car to do quite a lot. Seen Gabrielli and Thiago Montero struggling with balance at the rear of the car, that Honda Civic.
Well, one of the things the Hondas
Gabrielli
have been
and
about
Thiago Montero struggling with the balance
on this
of the rear
here this weekend. We've got
Civic.
5. Well, one of the things the Hondas have been complaining about is understeer. Switch back on themselves, corners, 4 right hand and 1 left hand. So 580 degree. Really, if you're starting with on themselves, corners, 4 right hand and 1 left hand. So on, and they need to sort of try and get their head around that. If you're starting with understeer, that's why it's going to be a killer. You might be seeing the Hondas very loose on the entry because they need to sort of be a bit more. There you go.
Keeping the fans entertained. 360 for Rob Huff. That's that curb on the exit of turn 11, isn't it? In that final sector. But that's what I was saying earlier. That rake in the rear of Ivan's car is really noticeable.
No, it's whether that's Citroen's answer to trying to get a bit more rake, a bit more point into the car, trying to look after that front end.
But the back of the car actually looks really stable. And you could actually see it hop through turn 1. You could see it almost hopping. It certainly is capable of loading that contact patch of the tyre up and holding that lateral load all the way through the corner. Whereas we've seen from the Honda that...
Tom, there's so many... You just don't know what idea they're taking behind their engineering. They either can run more camber on the back but run it softer, so it'll roll more, steer more, but it'll roll onto that camber and grip, or they can give it less camber to give it more of a footprint but less, so you get more grip on the initial. So it's wherever they're going, you don't know. But
and a lot of that will be
driver preference as well.
Driver preference.
100%.
When you've got a driver such as Ivan, Ivan will state to the engineers what is best for the car, but also what works for him, because he certainly has one eye on Jose Maria Lopez, and he'll be going all out, as we said earlier, to try and beat him.
Well, Ivan likes a very loose car, as Loeb does. Obviously, used to it on the loose, but Lopez a bit more traditional from his rear-wheel drive, big Formula background.
He relies a bit more on the aero efficiency of that Citroen as well, and that for me is fascinating, bringing that aero efficiency into touring cars. You really predominantly think of touring cars as an everyday car. Mechanical grip is the primary avenue, but now with the cars getting so much more efficient aerodynamically, it gives them another element, doesn't it? Especially through the longer sweeping corners that we have here, the medium speed corners.
Yeah, I don't know actually. I haven't looked it up, but I'd be interested to see, because this is obviously you've got in Argentina, you've got a bit of grass left over from Huffy's foray there. They've got a fantastically successful home series, TC2000, which sadly we don't get on the box, but which are quite advanced. People liken them to the super touring era we used to have in Britain back in the 90s, but they were V8s, so they're pretty quick. I'll be very interested to see what sort of lap times they do around here in comparison to these TC1 cars. I will look it up.
Hugo Valent in his Chevrolet Cruze. Valent driving for Campos this year, Spanish team, and went reasonably well in this morning's session. 11th overall, still 2.2 seconds off Jose Maria Lopez's lap time, but track conditions very, very different now. We saw a 48 flat from Lopez this morning, and with 10 minutes left on the clock, it is Ivan Muller who's quickest on a 46.9. Then it's still Thiago Montero and Jose Maria Lopez rounding out the top three. A couple of tenths back, Lopez now, to his French teammate. Mehdi Benani still occupying fourth spot. Then it is Sebastian Loeb fifth. And this man, Hugo Valent, rounding out the top six. Those first couple of runners did do a flying lap earlier on. They certainly did a push lap and a slow down lap, and I would be interested to see what tyres they're running.
Yeah, interesting times. And we're on about MotoGP in FP1, that MotoGP come here. They lap just under 6 seconds faster than one of these TC1 cars. But Moto2 actually lap at the same speed as a TC1 car in a 1:43 qualifying, and Moto3 is about 6 seconds off it.
It just shows how much corner speed these TC1 cars
and
are now carrying.
And the braking is phenomenal.
You're absolutely. But aero grip. Oh, Hugo Valent is on fire. He's pulled over. I don't know where he is, but that is a real problem for the Frenchman. The Campos team will be looking on, because this is just what you don't need. Has he spun off on his own oil? Yes, look, it's on fire. So I think he's spun off on his own oil. He's not hit the tyre wall. He's resting up against it, and that is a huge fire.
That's not good. That's big on fire. That is. They need to get.
I hope there's a marshal's post there. We're looking at Hugo Valent, and he's trudging away because he knows the severity of that. There's only a couple of hours between this free practice 2 and qualifying, and the Campos crew are going to have to work hard to rectify that. But first of all, the marshal's working very hard here to get that fire extinguished. They haven't got the hood up yet, have they?
The problem is lifting the hood up is going to give it oxygen, but getting the fire extinguisher powder in there, it's a completely enclosed thing on this one, on these TC1 cars.
You can still see there is a little bit of a flame there.
He's got all his fire retardant gear on, isn't he?
Yeah. The FIA will be looking closely at why he's occupying the scene without any overalls on, but they need almost a fire truck here.
That's still on fire, guys. You need to
They
get
can't.
in there.
They've run out of extinguishers there. So we're going to pan back to the pit lane, but I really do hope that they can get a fire unit across.
Yeah, they should have a fire truck somewhere.
To Hugo Valent's car, because without that, it doesn't take much for these carbon fibre cars.
That's going up big time.
Yeah.
That is not good.
Well, they got a fire truck here now, but
spraying the outer wing isn't going to do any good, boys.
I know that. Look, someone's trying to get the hood up there, but he's got his suit tied around his waist.
He's wearing a T-shirt and no gloves.
Common sense not at the forefront there.
They're just watching €500,000 worth of car go up in front of them.
Come on, boys, get the hood up. Here we go. Now this is the right time to get the hood up when you have the fire hose here.
If it's an oil line gone, it's going to take some putting out as well. That's going to have wrecked it. That's unfortunately that's Hugo's weekend over, because the time that has been burning, all the electrics are going to have gone, the looms. Now, Campos do have a spare car, so which I doubt they'd have flown out here as well for the expense. But you know, for the next meeting, you know, in Morocco, it's a definite possibility, because
we heard Alexandra there. We might go down to the pit lane with Alexandra. We've got Ben Constanduris also with Alexandra Legui down in that pit lane. But Hugo Valent with his hands on his head, because he knows, he's thinking what you're thinking, Matt.
Ben's probably running to the first corner with his extinguisher from the pit lane for a bird's eye view.
Well, Adrian Campos, team owner of Campos Racing, will have seen that. And it did look as though he spun off on his own oil, that was an oil line. I know we're speaking hypothetically now, but it looked as though that was an oil line,
yeah,
that has gone, and gone in a big way. It looked as though it was down into turn 5. Can't say for sure, but...
Was it turn 5 or was it turn 1?
Yeah, interesting. That's what we want to see. We want to see nothing in the way of smoke, but as you say, Matt, it's the damage that was done. Let's listen to Alexandra.
For Hugo there. I'm down here with Juan from Campos. Juan, any news for us? It looks like a brake issue.
It seems possible that it's on the brake. We are not sure what happened, and he goes straight on one corner, and I'm not sure if it's mechanical or not yet, because he have not told nothing on the radio. So we are waiting that he come back to understand a little bit the problem, but seems that it's coming from the brake issue.
Hard to tell right now, just from the screens. Looks like the fire has gone out. Any idea what the damage is going to be like?
For sure, all the front is not good, because he just go to the tires. So sure, we have to repair everything in front, and I hope the fire will be not big fire and not more damage on the car. Let's see.
Fingers crossed. Thank you, Juan.
Well, I don't think he's actually hit the tyres there. I'm sticking with my main theory that let go in terms of an oil line under braking. He was locked up travelling across the gravel. He's rested against the tyre wall, but that fire for me was not caused by any impact with the tyre wall. But
yeah, it wasn't a big enough impact. It didn't look, did it? It looked as though the gravel trap had worked pretty well, to be fair, and you know, he sort of rested to an edge in this side of the tyre wall, with flames already coming out the bonnet vents.
But for me, I think something's let go under braking there. That's what's caused the car to swap ends, and he would have had a horrible feeling when that happens, because as a driver, you just don't know what's happening. And to give Hugo Valent his due, he got out of that car quickly, and here we go. I think, look, it's not an impact with the tyre wall, and that the flames are immediate. So that for me is an oil line already off that car. And unfortunately for Hugo Valent and Campos, and for the fans, we may or may not see that car again. Certainly now only a couple of hours between free practice 2 and qualifying. 4 hours. That's going to be a whole engine change, all the illums, absolutely everything. and let's hope it's not done any damage. So looking on at Michelis's Honda Civic. Norbert Michelis from Hungary, and when we go to the Hungara ring, he creates quite a stir, doesn't he? He's got quite a lot of fans as Norbert Michelis.
It is like it's being at an MMA match in Hungary, but even Slovakia, they all come across the border to the Slovakian race. You know, the fans go absolutely mental. Every time he drives past, it's like the old Mansell era going around the British Grand Prix, where their air horns would be sounding at any point on the track where he is.
He's in the Zengo Motorsport Honda Civic this year. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on, but there seems to be plenty of damage to that Campos car. And race direction will be looking at how long that car was burning for, because of all the parameters that are based around safety. Had the driver hit the wall and been in that car, it could have been a lot more severe.
If he'd been unconscious.
Yeah, he was able to get out under his own steam because he'd spun off on his own oil. But for me, that car was burning too long.
A little bit of a panic going on in the Castrol Honda pit here. I wouldn't say panic, but
there's a lot of banging around, isn't there? Gabriele Tarquini looking cool,
Italian
calm,
screwdriver,
and collective. Yeah,
otherwise known as a hammer.
The persuasive tool. Talk us through this, Matt. On top of the car, they've got what it looks like is a rug. That's essentially a heat shield.
It's a heat shield, really, to keep the heat out. Yeah, and the car cool, the driver cool, and all the rest of it. You know, and the fuel tank will be based in the back of the car, and you don't want the fuel getting warm as much as anything. You want nice, cool fuel, which you can't cool the fuel as it goes into the engine, but they've just got to try and keep it as cool as possible, because obviously that affects the horsepower and which affects the lap time. You know, and so it's a whole multitude of things. You know, an ideal day for practicing, testing, racing is a nice, cool, fresh day. The engine breathes well. There's a lot of condensation in the air. The tyres work well. You know, the surface isn't too warm. You know, a day like today where, you know, we're pushing on 30 degrees, driver's getting too hot, tyres are getting too hot, engine doesn't like it, and all the rest of it.
Dusan Borkovic trying to still figure out where he's going to fit.
He's even got a long name, hasn't he? Or no, long website. You put it all together.
Yeah, it almost goes around his helmet. But look,
you can see how much he's crunched up in there.
Yeah, he's trying to get his legs out the door. He's still not comfy, is he? And well, that's a horrible feeling. But talked about keeping fuel cool on a perfect day. You wouldn't pick Argentina in terms of how high we are above sea level here. You lose a little bit of brake horsepower, don't you, because of the geographical location that we're at.
It's not so bad with a turbocharged engine. With the normally aspirated engines, yes, it's more critical. Gosh, that's a mess, isn't it?
The wing mirror has come off because he was resting up against the wall. He's got the Jules Bianchi sticker on the side of the car. Jules Bianchi.
He had another big accident a couple of weeks back, didn't he, in testing at Paul Ricard, where he lost a wheel. So it's his second biggest shunt. I mean, second big shunt of the year already. So they haven't even got to the first race yet.
He's on to his third race suit.
We saw the larder of Rob Huff facing backwards a little bit earlier. A little spin there, Rob.
Yeah, just pushing the boundaries, finding the limits. That's what free practice is for. You know, ultimately we've not done a lot of driving in the car, so you know, we need to get a wriggle on and find those limits as quickly as possible. And yeah, I think you can safely say I found it there.
Are you enjoying the feeling of this car, though?
Oh, it's fantastic. You know, it's a real race car. It feels great. It feels solid. You know, there's a lot of work to do with it yet, but ultimately the base is fantastic.
Thanks very much.
Great to hear Rob sounding so positive. This is actually another moment. This was the moment I was talking about when I saw all of the grass in that front grille, and this is a moment further around the lap. And
no one can say he's not trying at the minute, can they? Now, just looking back at those pictures, they seem to be running the rear end of that Vesta very high as well. Well, they're just trying to make it, you know, get those front tyres to work. And
we have seen, interestingly enough, especially down into turn 13, a lot of locking of the front wheel into turn 1 as well. Whether or not they're having issues getting those front tyres to work, but certainly under braking, I have seen. I know the track is green. This is free practice. Free practice 1 was tricky in terms of the damp patches. Not a lot of rubber laid down, but there's still an element for pretty much all of the drivers up the pit lane in terms of getting the car stopped for those turns.
Normally with the front wheel drive, you can. I mean, the last thing you want to do in a front wheel drive is lock the front wheels because it's a proper drama, and because the diffs will be locked up so tight, it's very unusual to lock one wheel unless you're on brand new really sticky rubber. So it could be something to do with the gradient of the road. If the road's dropping away there, just unweighting one wheel, and that's causing it to puff with smoke, lock a wee bit. It can be a multitude of factors. You can see as we're coming down to turn 1, the road does drop away.
And turn 1 and turn 13, turn 1 slightly quicker entry, but you are asking the car to rotate as well.
They'll be braking through on the, trailing the brakes on the way in. See, the 2 Castrol Hondas have just stopped for a couple of practice starts as we go out. They're on filing past them.
And that's to work on setting the bite points, isn't it?
Setting the clutches, working with the maps, with the start line procedures. So it's quite a complex. People ask me what is the hardest thing about driving one of these things, and I always say getting off the line fast. They are incredibly difficult. It's easy to mess it up.
And it becomes a stigma, doesn't it? It's a bit like playing golf when you're saying don't lift your head, and 9 times out of 10 you lift your head when you're driving off the tee. When you're starting to think about the start, it becomes a stigma. You make 1 or 2 bad starts, and then you start thinking about the process, and before you know it, you're halfway through the year, and you haven't made a good start yet. And
a lot of the electronic gizmos which they're allowed in Formula 1 were abandoned touring cars in here. So they will have quite still sophisticated start procedures to try and minimise that, but an element is still left in the driver's hands and the driver's feel. But you have to follow the procedures just to try and maximise it.
So Rob Huff's Lada Vesta, with all the grass cleaned out of that front splitter. Style-wise, it's just a massive step forward from last year's car, isn't it? Yeah, last year's car let's just not go there. This year's car...
Last year's car was a proper boy racer's car, wasn't it?
It looked as though someone had
like Dennis the Menace had designed it
in the backyard. But this year's car is a really good step forward, and in terms of pace, which is the all-important aspect.
Someone was telling me that the Granta Lada were manufacturing 400,000 of those a year. 400,000.
That's incredible, isn't it? This car is the Russians are very, very pleased with it. It's, as we're going to go through the live intercom, I can't hear anything but myself.
A nice bit of in-car off Huffy there.
There's a dog.
Away. No way.
There is a dog on the circuit, so that'll be the red flag again. I can't see they'll let the K9 stay on the circuit. There was definitely a dog there.
He's just got away from the barbecue.
And good job we can't hear anything, because I'm pretty
Huffy's
sure
swearing in his helmet.
I know what Rob would have been saying.
They do have an issue with stray dogs in Buenos Aires.
Yes.
So one's obviously gone into the wrong place.
Well, let's hope the race direction saw that, because
I can't believe we haven't got a red flag already.
I know. So this is live on board, not live intercom at the moment, even though it says that, because I can't hear anything. But what we are doing is getting a really good view of what Rob's doing here. Talk us through it, Matt.
He's just working away. You can see him flicking up through the gears, through the flick-flack, holding onto the car, just feeling the grip, winding the lock, feeling the grip, winding the lock.
Oh, now he is talking.
And we're trying to hear what he's saying. It's a bit muffled at the moment, whether he's going to come back in.
Good traction, he's saying. He's doing... He heard what you were saying, Matt, and he thinks he can do a better job.
That was it.
Shame we didn't get that for the whole lap.
Yeah. Bit clear as well. Last time we had it last year, it was much clearer. Whether it's something with a mic or whether they've got it located. There's the dog again.
There's the dog. Waved yellow flags. It has to be.
Waved yellow flags for a dog.
I mean, it has to be a red flag. You cannot have a dog running around. The marshals are having kittens at that marshal's post.
You say that, Tom. My first season ever racing up at Knock Hill.
Yes.
They said, if you see a waved yellow flag and no cars off, just be careful because we've got some deer loose on the circuit and we can't catch them at the moment.
Oh, wow.
But you are talking over 20 years ago. It's not like a Grand Prix circuit like this with a World Championship FIA-regulated race.
I'm not a World Touring Car driver by any stretch of the imagination, but I personally would get nervous if I was going round the corner and I knew that there was a dog there.
Joking apart, Lopez's car looks loose there. They're sat so far back and down in these cars, they're going to struggle. If a dog's there, lay on the road, they're going to struggle to see it.
Now, it's going to do an awful lot of damage if you hit
it is the dog.
30-kilo dog. And to my imagination as well.
Or 48-kilo your Wolfie, police dog.
Exactly. And Lopez doing some grass cutting there.
Yeah, he's trying hard now.
He's on a completely different line, and he's locked up into this corner every single time we've watched him.
Look at that, Quinquan Mar, fastest of all now in the second string Citroen.
Yeah, so with 3 minutes left on the clock.
That looked a bit of an untidy lap for Lopez. So, and where does that put him actually? Yeah, that puts him 4th place.
It is a fine line, isn't it? We saw it from Tarquini, and I almost said he was overdriving. There is a fine line, and I know what you're saying. You have to be right on that edge, car dancing around, but there's an element of it from Lopez. He's backed off now, so he was on a run there. That was a lap that was trying to simulate qualifying, and we've seen his teammates actually done a better job.
Yeah, I mean, he's 4 tenths off at the moment, but when you put it into the context of... I tried to explain it to people who are not in motorsport. It takes 3 tenths of a second to blink.
Yes.
And you're 4 tenths off, so it's, there's nothing in it. So the car slides a wee bit coming out of one corner. You just scrub speed and you've lost that all the way up the next straight, and there's your difference. So it's...
That was my problem. I think I blinked around 4 or 5 of the corners per lap. That was my second.
I know the feeling, yeah.
Citroen crew
sun
looking
was in your
on.
eyes, wasn't it? Yeah.
Always. Even at Knock Hill. Jose Maria Lopez now
there you go.
Popped up at...
He's put us back in our places.
Top. Yes, there you go.
Only just, though. He's just nibbled in front of Quinquan Mar by a... Yeah. And that's...
So with time ticking down now, and a lot of the teams and drivers simulating qualifying runs, it is a Citroen 1-2-3. Jose Maria Lopez finished FP1 on top. He's currently on top in FP2. Then it's Quinquan Mar, who's found a lot of time compared to his FP1 effort. Ivan Muller is the third of those Citroens. Then it is Thiago Monteiro. He seems to have the legs on his teammate Tarquini in practice, certainly. What is Gabrielli going to do for qualifying? The Lada Sport of Rob Huff back up in that top 6, Matt. Now, that's a brand new car fighting with the Citroens and the Hondas, because behind him in 6th is Mehdi Benani in a Citroen. Sebastian Loeb is 7th. So, I tell you what, that car's done 300 kilometres of testing. I'm encouraged by what I see there from Rob Huff.
Well, again, you don't know what, with just a minute left to go, you don't know what strategies people are working to. You've got Sebastian Loeb, he's languishing down 2.5 seconds off. He's been on it all weekend. He may be comfortable, he may be not trying his new tyres, or... I mean, but the times in general aren't very impressive compared to last year. I mean, when Alex interviewed Lopez earlier on in the day, he was saying, well, we don't think we're going to get down to last year's times, but I mean, you'd say it's almost perfect conditions at the moment.
I've got a theory. So when we've been here before, we've been here in August, when other race series have been in and around the facility. It's halfway through the racing season. This circuit's not been used
green
for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not all the time, but as we look at the lone Campos car of Felipe, Hugo Valente obviously catching fire, causing that red flag halfway through. Felipe now the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, it's a brand new car as well, that is. Brand new Chevy, straight from RML. So Campos have got 3 cars now, because they've got the car that Brokovic was in last year.
Okay.
So, they were hoping to get a 3rd driver out in at some point, which might now have to become Hugo Valente's spare car.
On board with Ivan Muller.
Sunday afternoon drive.
There we go. He's obviously passed the checkered flag, waiting for our timing screens to correct themselves. They're slightly slow here, but he's done a purple final sector. Jose Maria Lopez is on a purple lap. What you're seeing on the screen is Lopez finishing his lap through turn 12 up to turn 13. Will he lock up? He's locked up here pretty much every lap. Yes, he does. Makes the apex though, but for a race distance, Matt, that's going to cause, we've touched on it already, that's going to cause
you're going to have some 50p pieces underneath you. I don't know why he's bothering finishing that, but why? All you're going to do is take more life out your tyres and your car and everything, you know, for what? So,
well, we'll see, because he's done purple 1st and 2nd sector. I mean, this timing screen,
if you finish,
I could have a calendar quicker than this.
At the top of the timing screen in free practice, then who cares? You know, you've won nothing.
46.5, 3/10 he improves on his lap before. I know what you mean. It's almost like flexing your muscles for the sake of flexing your muscles. It's important for Lada and Rob Huff, because they are testing, aren't they? They haven't run their car in qualifying spec over 1 lap on new tyres, so he needs, like I was saying at the beginning of the session, to get his head around this very quickly. He's backed off though. That was an in-lap obviously, but still pushing on the in-lap to get that data, to get that feel. Well, that is half an hour's worth of free practice 2 for you. Rob Huff entering the pit lane. It's Jose Maria Lopez from his teammate Muller 3rd, looking on 3/10 off. He doesn't look too happy, doesn't look too disappointed. He will have in his mind this is free practice, but it's that man Jose Maria Lopez at the top of the timesheets again.
Yeah, but it's home. I mean, the amount of miles Lopez must have done round here is unbelievable. Probably as much as the rest of the grid put together. So Muller's been around a long time. He knows the score. He's a 4-time world champion. You know what he has been doing over the winter. He's been training very hard, harder than he's done it for a good while now. So he knows he wants to take the fight back to Lopez, but he knows you're not going to win every weekend, and this you know, by the law of averages, is going to be Lopez's weekend. So as long as he can stay there, get in the fight, finish around him, you know, it's a long year ahead of us.
It is indeed. Starting off in Argentina around this Termas de Rio Hondo circuit. And the sun is shining. Will it be shining on an Argentinian on pole for qualifying in a couple of hours' time?
Your 2nd big crash in a week. What happened? Was it brakes?
Yeah, it was brakes. I was coming down the main straight, so where we were the fastest on the track, and when I touched the brake and tried to brake, the pedal just went completely to the end, and there was no sign of any kind of braking. So yeah, I mean that's what happened. I had to put down the gear. The engine was screaming a lot, and then when I went into the gravel, I tried to turn the car because I didn't want to do another frontal crash in 1 week, and even for the car is better. So I touched the barrier sideways, and then the car got on fire. So it's not looking very good.
Not at all. And are you hurt?
Yeah, I mean, more than last week actually. Weirdly, even though it was a frontal last week, my neck hurts a bit, and I'm a bit cut in my back. But I've got Patrick here, my trainer, to take care of me, so he'll do a good job.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll get that car back on track pretty soon. Doesn't look like it'll be ready for tomorrow, though?
I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest, because it got on fire. Even the engine is probably really damaged now. I mean, I know they've done incredible things last year in Campos, rebuilding my car in Salzburg as well after the crash there. So
can never say never here, but I'm quite pessimistic.
Well, that is not very good.
I
You
know,
go.
I always have to be optimistic, but no, it's not looking very good. We'll see.
Well, no more.
So it was brake failure. Did he buzz the engine, banging down those gears? We'll wait and get the full rundown from that Campos team as we go through the results for free practice 2. Lopez heading out a Citroen 123. Montero getting in the mix. Rob Huff proving that that Lada Vesta is a quick bit of equipment in his hands. And then it's another Citroen in the hands of Mehdi Benani. Daste, the pinstripe suit maestro in his Chevrolet, is 7th. Sebastien Loeb, the Frenchman, rounding out the top 8. And then Tarquini down in 11th. Good run from Felipe in the other Campos car. Ricard Rydell still struggling for pace. We saw his team manager interviewed at Nika International at the beginning of the session. But again, Matt, we don't know what the teams are doing in terms of preparation. Thompson, a long way off his teammate. Has he got a problem? We'll wait and see. Borkovic rounding out the top 18.
I'm in the garage where the war will be played out this weekend between Pachito Lopez, the hometown hero, and the challengers, the 2 Frenchmen, Sebastien Loeb and Ivan Muller. Now, Ivan was quite interesting because Ivan set some really fast times middle sector. The purple sectors came up every time you came into the pits. So you haven't really seen your hand. Can you get as fast as Pachito?
I will tell you that after qualifying. So far, yeah, I did only 1 lap time during that session. You know, the track was getting better and better every lap. For me, the lap time was not important. It was more important to work on the balance of my car.
Ivan, you're looking very fresh. We're sweating outside in the heat there. It looks very nice in the car.
It's not that warm.
Well, I hope we have a good fight this weekend between you and Pachito.
I hope so.
Not that warm for a cool, calm and collected 4-time world champion. Well, listen, that is all from me, Tom Gamel and Matt Neal. We'll be back in a couple of hours from this term at the Rio Hondo circuit for qualifying, the first qualifying session of 2015. Who's going to be top of the tree? Join us then.